Greetings and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors. Of course, it's Monday night and it's that night when we talk about health is wealth. Health is wealth. We're going to go around the table as we always do, and we're going to begin to introduce our panel of greatness that we have here to the woman who keeps it 100. She's known as Dr. 100. That's our very own Dr. Maya Green. Dr. Green.
Hello, Nikki. Hello, Representative Davis, and all the esteemed guests and fellow healthcare providers, and also fellow care people who care for humans in the community. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to talk about some of the stuff with the new variant out and kind of get to the bottom of it and go back into how we can protect our tribe. So thank you for having me.
Okay. Dr. Maya Green, go ahead on and bring everybody else on as an introduction.
Okay. All right, Dr. Hampton.
Thank you, Dr. Maya, and lovely hair today. Just want to do a shout out to your hair. I can't change. Go on and be cute. I ain't mad at you.
You know we'll switch it up.
Yeah, you gotta switch it
get
up.
on the call like it ain't nothing.
That's right. That's right. Switch it up.
My hairstyle was like Dr. Miller's last time. Now it's I go from
It's all good.
Yeah.
We appreciate you changing it up a little bit. It's all good, and we have to live life to the fullest. So happy to be here. Love this time of the year with the holidays being here, and I really appreciate you guys, the opportunity. And it was so funny. I came home, and as I'm getting my my father-in-law settled because he has a caregiver, and I saw her reading the paper, and I guess it's the Voice, and I saw her looking exactly at U.S. Rep. Danny K. Davis assisting with expungement for non-violent offenders, working with Mary Reed to get the message out. And I really love that because I have a lot of family members who have committed non-violent crimes. They're good people, made bad choices, and shouldn't have to suffer their entire lives because of that. So I want to do a shout out to Danny Davis for doing that work. It is so important, particularly in communities of color where our circumstances sometimes lead to things that, you're just trying to support your family and you do things that maybe, you shouldn't have to suffer your whole life for. So thank you for your work. And I thought that was ironic that I'm getting on this call right before I see her reading your name in this paper. So thanks for inviting us and having me here, and let's get it done.
Well, thank you, because I just talked to Mary Reed about maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours ago. And Mary Reed is 79 years old. She's going to be 80 on her birthday, which is coming up. And the guys in the street call her Mama Mary. Yeah, they call her Mama Mary because there's a street named for her down near Ashland. She has one of these honorary streets named, and she has been an outstanding. Mary Reed is actually a retired beautician, and for many years she owned her own beauty shop. And when she retired, she just became totally what we call an activist. And she got involved with reentry, and that's what she does. So she'd be glad to know that we had reentry mentioned in this conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that in. Thank you, Congressman.
So, Nikki, you want me to keep going, or you got? All right. Next up, we have. Well, this is my chance to tell you all why I really admire you. We have Dr. James Miller, who we were just on a call. Dr. Miller, you weren't on that call, but on that call, I mentioned you, and I mentioned how a lot of times in communities that are minoritized and overlooked, underserved, the key to get in the door isn't an MD degree.
Yeah.
It isn't because we have licensures or certificates to care for people's physical health. A lot of times, the key to open the doors to our community is when we care for their spiritual health. And that's something that I watch you do, and something I really appreciate that you do in our communities. Dr. James Miller.
Good evening, everybody. Just trying to tell you a little kind of a story about actually my reasoning for getting into healthcare. When I was in high school and actually when I first went to college, my intent was to be an engineer, and I was really excellent in math, and that was really my goal. And in my senior year in high school, my grandmother, who lived in Mississippi, uh, passed away, and she passed away from tetanus. She was walking outside with barefooted, and she stepped on a nail. And so when I visited her in the hospital, and she was an individual that sort of had a clear understanding of life and how life lead and guide one. And it was over the time, I kept my ideas and my desires continued to be the same. However, I had got this something pulling on me saying, you got to do something different, because I went to see her in the hospital. And, in Mississippi, at that time, hospitals were segregated, and Black folks, the care that was provided seemed to be substandard. And I'm wondering why this, why that, and my grandmother was less than 60 years old when she passed. And my big desire had been that once I get my education together and I get money together, I'm going to buy my grandma a house and move her out, away. And I never got a chance to do that. And it seemed like throughout my years after that, until I finally decided that I wanted to go into medicine, that I kept seeing my grandmother face and seeing her circumstances. And somehow something said to me, the community need healing, and the community need people that are concerned about the people that live in communities and want to heal, as opposed to just, wanting to have whatever, being having your degree is fine, but the important thing is being useful, being able to help people of the community, and looking out for those that really were underserved and couldn't do much about it except that somebody come and help them. And so, yeah, that's always been my desire and my drive. As I prepared, and I remember we having a conversation with one of our deans in medical school, and we were talking about things that we wanted to do on the West Side. And this is at Northwestern, and he says to me, he said, we didn't bring you to Northwestern for you to go back on the West Side. we got better things for you to do. And I said, Dean, I said, I came here to get what I can get and take it back home, not for you to move me away from my home. But so it's always been my aim and my concern about the people of the community, and to give that care. And so thank you for mentioning that, because that's an important thing, to be able to relate to people and to relate to them, who they are and where they are. So hopefully tonight we can relate to you all and give you some information that's going to be helpful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller. And speaking of a physician that has demonstrated time and time again, decades legacy of being able to move wherever needed in the community, Dr. Terry Mason. I have watched you. I don't know. I don't even think you know this. I was a medical student watching you walk through Cook County Hospital. And from there, being like, wow, that's Dr. Mason. And then you went into public health. I wanted to go into public health. I was like, oh, so you can take this to a community level and do well there. And then Dr. Mason said, I looked over and realized I never really healed anyone, I can participate in healing through what we're putting in our bodies, right? Insert the food is medicine, which is what I want to also give Dr. Hampton some props for. After this, I'll go back. I didn't know Nikki was going to give me a chance. So she called me off guard with you, Dr. Hampton. But I'm going to tell you about this post you had with somebody that was living or managing diabetes through food as medicine. But Dr. Mason, thank you for all the ways you've wrapped yourself around the needs of the community. And I know some people out here have a spiritual belief, and there's a scripture that says, I became all things to all men so I can win some. And that's your part of your legacy. And thank you for being such a good example, Dr. Mason.
Well, thank you. Well, I never expected this. But thank you so much, Dr. Meyer. I really appreciate it. I'm just honored to sit here still, still in the game at this point in time in my life, and still hoping to have something positive to contribute. And one thing I will say, I always used to sort of push back on the food is medicine, because if you eat the right food, you won't need medicine.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so that I don't look at it from, I understand why people say it, because you can also use food to correct some of the problems that have gone wrong with us, and they go wrong because we put the wrong things in. And so I want to thank you for that lovely introduction. And I'm just grateful to be here on this panel with my esteemed colleagues. And hopefully we'll have something to impart to the people that are listening that will make a better day and a better life for them.
Thank you so much. And speaking of still in the game, Dr. Douglas Graham, a lot of people, once we say, hey, I'm looking for how I'm going to serve, not necessarily in this capacity, but what I'm going to do, Dr. Graham, you said, let me link up with Congressman Danny Davis, who, if you look at the history and the legacy Congressman Davis has given a life to us. I remember meeting Congressman Davis, talking to him several times. He never said anything, like, oh, where you been? The public health you're trying to do? I laid the creation for it. I started my first job at the Core Center, talked to Congressman Davis several times. And then Congressman Davis was like, yeah, I was part of the talks to make that possible. Dr. Douglas Graham, when we do what we do, we always have options on what to do as we move to a different space or phase of our lives. Thank you for saying, hey, how can I still be of service and join in the fight to serve our communities, Dr. Graham?
And Dr. Meyer, I don't think you could have said it. It's just perfect. And that's exactly the way I feel. I'll tell you, it's really an amazing honor to work with a congressman and to be in the office and to do the things I do and to learn what I'm learning. It's a real eye-opener. And this is the time to do it. Not tomorrow, not next week. And so I'm glad to be of service. I'm going to try and answer your questions if I can. And it's a real pleasure being on this panel with all of you.
And before I thank Congressman Davis for coming, I just want to go back to Dr. Hampton, because again, I didn't know I was going to have this opportunity, and I want to give just pay homage and just thank all of us for what we are doing and continue to do. I follow you on Facebook, and I saw part of the work you do is making community aware of what Dr. Mason, thank you, has mentioned is like, if you eat the right food, you won't need medicine. And if you get in a space where you are in a space where food can heal or bring back to restoration, then do that. Dr. Hampton is on this campaign to talk about how diabetes can be brought into healthy nutrition for diabetes. You may be able to explain it better. Can be a benefit to our bodies, and everything isn't always a pill,
Yeah, and I'll only add that, and again, I've been really focused on nutrition at a high level over the last maybe 9 years, and I had not ever taken anybody off medicine but a couple of times, and these were like ultra athlete types. And once I kind of shifted to using diet, it's not just that one post, where you have somebody on insulin for 11 years and within 30 days they get off of insulin. That's not like, you would think that would be like, oh my God, that's a one in a lifetime event. I've taken 70 people off insulin since I've been doing this. I mean, if you really reflect on that, I'm not a miracle worker. I just go into my visits with like a preacher, and I have to be careful because I don't demonize, blame. A lot of the advice we've given in the past has been wrong. But when I explain to people how to eat differently and to reduce the things that will, raise their blood sugar and give them some options, they are motivated. Please don't believe that people won't be motivated to change, particularly in communities of color, where people have always talked down to us and said they're not going to change. Well, I have so many testimonies, and in the moment when we actually recorded her podcast twice. The first time, horrible, it didn't go well. But during that first recording, I did not know her A1C number. And I literally shed a tear. And I wish that recording had actually worked out, because she was in the 13 A1C range, got down to 9, got down to 7. And at the time of the recording, she was at 5.8. For those who don't know, 5.6 is normal. 5.8 is borderline. And this person was told that she'll be on insulin for the rest of her life and got off in 30 days. So if you don't believe diet will not, that it won't fix you, I got some news for you. You got some good news. The good news is that it can, and you can do it. And there's different approaches to do it. And the key is to find an approach that works best for you. And I promise you, we'll hold your hand, encourage you, coach you. And you don't have to stick yourself every day, or those days will be in the past. So thank you for bringing it up, Dr. Maya.
Thank you, Dr. Hampton. And then Congressman Danny K. Davis, Dr. James Miller mentioned taking what we learn in the sciences and bringing it to our community. And I want to thank you for not only doing that, but continuing to make space for other people to do it. And Dr. Miller, you mentioned making space for community to actually access healthcare and access doctors and things like that. Things like this, Congressman Davis, really help. We're looking at the responses. People are like, I cannot believe I'm have access to ask my questions to doctors. But this is just a small thing. Dr. Hampton mentioned something else you're doing. You have your hands in so much wellness in so many forms for the community over the years. And I just want to thank you, Congressman Danny K. Davis, for having us here.
Well, thank you very much, and really thank all of you. I started my day this morning at a hearing down at the Federal Building with Senator Durbin and a number of other people in law enforcement, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, the Chief of Police, and all kind of other people. And we were talking about violence and guns. And of course, Dr. Arway was on one of the panels, and she is the health commissioner for the city of Chicago, and talked about violence and that kind of thing from a perspective of health and what health can do and how health is related. And, I thought as I listened to Dr. Miller, and, some folks wouldn't know that, but when I was a kid and where I lived, people were as afraid of tetanus.
Yeah.
And I mean, we did everything in our power. I mean, we were cautioned all the time by our parents and people not to step on any rusty instrument, not to step on a nail, not to get cut by any rusty tin. And that I'm saying that was a big deal.
That's right. Mhm.
I mean, people who live in other periods, in other eras, in other places, oftentimes have little conceptualization of what things have been like.
Mhm.
And so when they say that no progress is being made and no changes are taking place and nothing is happening. I just left a meeting with the mayor of the city of Chicago, and as we discussed all the things that we talked about, she also mentioned to me how she first knew about the Mile Square Health Center, and some of the people that we knew, both of us knew, who had been engaged, and she mentioned one person, and of course this person just died, Lacey Thomas,
Mhm.
who was the comptroller there, and then Lacey eventually became the head of Cook County Hospital, working with John Stroger. And Ruth Rothstein, when Ruth became the head of health services, the whole thing, Lacey became the director of the hospital. And of course, Lacey just passed away, I guess, a few days ago.
Mhm.
And of course, he ran the medical center in Las Vegas. He went from working at Mile Square, then he went and worked at County and became the director of Cook County Hospital, working with John Stroger. Then he got a job out in Las Vegas as the director of a large medical center complex in Las Vegas. And he ran into some difficulty and he went through the judiciary system and beat the situation and got a situation overturned. He was an alpha man, and he gave a contract one time to some other who were alphas, and some of his jealous uh, counterparts
Mhm.
pretended that the only reason he gave these guys the contract was because they were alphas. And of course, he went to court and they had serious lawsuits, but Lacey prevailed and won because just because these guys were his brothers fraternally, it didn't mean that he was greasing in his skids for them. They were qualified to do what they were doing.
Mhm.
And so I always appreciated Lacey for that. But I was just intrigued, Dr. Miller, as you talked about tetanus
Yeah.
and what a big problem that used to be. So let me just thank all of you and let us get on to the health parts. But health is so many things. I mean, we talk about diet. I heard a guy on the radio saying that there was a physician who was using diet to treat autism. That there was and he had written a book about how he used different things, but how he changed a young person's dietary intake, and he'd been having all kind of problems, but it changed within a period of less than a week.
Mhm.
And so people are discovering things all the time and figuring things out that they didn't know. And once they figure them out, then they can make use of them. So I want to wish everybody a happy holiday season. Uh, this is a time of the year that no matter how things may appear to be, something gets added in the thoughts and minds. And I'm amazed because I went to an event last night and there was over 400 people there. And I was kind of, and it was in Chinatown and it was a Christmas event. And of course, they had food and you had to take off your mask to eat. And I was kind of skeptical, but I did have to eat. It would have been insulting to the people I was with if I didn't eat. At least that's what I always was told. And so I had to take my mask off and eat. And I did. And so far, I think I'm still all right. But it's amazing that some people, I went to church yesterday morning with the governor of Illinois, uh, Governor Pritzker, and there was a good number of people at this particular church. I mean, they were spaced out and that kind of thing, but they were there.
He was in the building.
Yeah, I went to another church and it wasn't but about 15 people. It's a different stroke with different folks, and I'm sure they all decide in their own way of determining what is safe, what is good, and what you can and cannot do. But so please, Dr. Maya, carry on.
So we want to say thank you to everyone for being here. And as a reminder, we want to say thank you to all of our social media family, to all the ones who are streaming in with us here on YouTube, Facebook, and all of our other social media families. Thank you so, so very much for being here with us. I want to say hi to some of our adamant visitors who are here listening with us on tonight. Carrie Steele, our very own Commissioner Carrie Steele, the president of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation. I see Lydia Williams is here with us on tonight, the president of ASME. And she says, Congressman, I have a question for you. So I believe she's going to put that in here. That's Lydia Williams. Usually we do a ton of Christmas caroling during the holidays, and Lydia is usually our choir director. Now, the congressman says that we don't sing very well, but we have a lot of good effort behind all of that. To Melinda Kelly, who is here, Derek Taylor of the Black McDonald's Association, Karen Yarbrough, who is here with us, Sergeant Yolanda Walton, who is here, Walt Whitman of the Soul Children of Chicago, that's Dr. Walt Whitman, who is here with us watching on this evening, Sandra Rowe, to Shauna Black Ice and Tyrone Jackson, who are here, to Judy Fishtrunk, who is here with us on tonight, Denise Gathings, to Kim Godden, who is here, that's the vice president over at Superior Ambulance. Thank you so much. Linda Johnson is here with us, and she says, good evening to everyone. Tina Ramsey, that's Pastor Tina Ramsey now, who is here with us. She says, amen and wonderful. Yolanda Williams is here with us. Good evening, Yolanda, she says. Audrey J. Cox is here with us, and she's saying good evening to everyone. Edna Weatherspoon is here. She says good evening to all. Lorenzo Burton is here with us on this evening, and he says hello. Oh, there's my girl, Erica Davis is here. She says, Rep Davis, you are so funny. She said, want to remind each and every one of you who are here with us on today, don't forget to join us on Monday, December 20th, over at Excess Tennis in the 5300 South on State Street for the Soul Santa Village. There'll be a Soul Santa Village there. We'll be giving out tons of trinkets and gifts to all the youth and any and everyone who wants a vaccine and or a booster. Know that you can get that on that day. So make sure that you stop by. I see Sister Bonnie has chimed in here with us. And of course, my sister girl here, Erica Davis, says, hello, Nikki. And it is a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. And her dad is simply fantastic. He's the deacon of all deacons. So we want to say thank you guys for being here with us on this evening. We're going to start.
Well, let me ask, is Walt going to be there and the Soul Children on the 20th?
They will be singing, Congressman. They both will be there. They will be singing. And I think they have made you an honorary member of the Soul Children Choir.
No, I ain't gonna mess up.
Well, we're gonna see what Walt got to say about that. Tracy
They
is
too
here.
well
She said,
know. I may talk a little bit, but I ain't gonna
talk a little
try.
bit.
I'm gonna stay in my lane.
Alderman Pat Dow said she'll be talking with you. All right. So Tracy is here. She says, hello. Hey, Nikki Harvey. How you doing, Tracy? Shirley Howard is here. And she says, good evening to everyone. And thank you so much for the information. We're going to get right into our questions. I thought we would start with the easy ones first. And one of our questions says, what is the difference between rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis?
I think I got both of them.
So I'm happy to answer that one. Osteoarthritis is how your joints age. Osteoarthritis is a kind of a wear and tear issue where you start to lose that smooth surface called cartilage, which acts like Teflon between the ends of the bones that enables you to open and close them without friction. And like Teflon, that cartilage has a lifespan. And as it begins to wear, it's harder to use and open and close. And your body begins to build like little bones and edges around the joint to stabilize it. So that's a normal aging phenomenon. All of us will have it. And there's certain places where we'll get it over time. Unfortunately, as of today, there's nothing that we can do that will essentially reverse that. There are treatments for it, but we can't cure it. Rheumatoid arthritis is different. Rheumatoid arthritis is a disease, and it's a very unusual disease. It's because it's when the body is attacking parts of your body as if it's a foreign invader, and it's trying to get rid of it. And that sets off this chemical process called inflammation that causes redness, heat, and swelling. Now, how can you tell the difference? Well, if you have rheumatoid arthritis, you're generally stiff when you get up in the morning because that inflammation's been going on all night and your joints are filled with fluid, and it takes a while to pump that fluid out of the joint. Osteoarthritis, you're not as stiff when you get up in the morning, but you tend to hurt more later in the day as you've used the joints. There are treatments for rheumatoid arthritis, and it's interesting that there are more treatments available for rheumatoid arthritis than there are for osteoarthritis, but osteoarthritis is a lot more common.
Thank you, Douglas, so much. Great question and a very informative answer. So you said that so the next question says, is there a cure for rheumatoid arthritis? And why does it seem to get worse when the weather changes?
So there are two different questions. And it turns out that there is such a thing as rheumatism, and that the structure of your joint, when it changes as it ages, it's very sensitive to changes in temperature and pressure and rheumatism. So when it says they got rheumatism, yeah, it's because your body's acting like a weather vane and it's sensing all those changes in temperature and pressure. Rheumatoid arthritis is kind of a very unusual disease in that there's probably more than one type and more than one kind. And as we've changed our treatment philosophies, I think we're getting closer and closer to what might be called a cure. But it really depends on how early you catch it, how serious a case it is, and how aggressively it's treated. But I can tell you, when I started my career 30 plus years ago, it was a much more crippling and debilitating disease than it is now with the new treatments we have available. You can really lead a very, very functional life with rheumatoid arthritis and very few symptoms if you are able to get the medication.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you so very much. Dr. Walt Whitman says he is here and he is with us. And Congressman, you are an honorary member. I just thought I would just repeat that because he said it. I think he's getting ready to probably write it. And Audrey Jaycock says, Congressman, you are on the road tonight. And Tracy also says that, Congressman, you are funny. She says, you are funny. Our next question says, first, let me say thank you for taking my question. I would like to say, Congressman Davis, your show has contributed to our family's health during this period of coronavirus. It has put us at ease and taught us how to be safer and a healthier family. I've been watching since the very first show with Nikki and Dr. Pete, and my whole family is in front of the computer watching on YouTube every Monday night. I thank you guys for spending your time with us on Monday night. I have one question tonight. They diagnosed my father with aspergillus. Am I pronouncing that properly? She said they diagnosed my father with aspergillus. I hope I spelled it right. I hope I pronounced it right. She said, I hope it spelled it right. The doctors cannot explain clearly what this is. Can you guys shed some light? Don't all jump at that question at the same time, Maya and Tony and Dr. Hampton and Dr. Miller. I see you playing with the mute button.
So, yeah. So aspergillus is a fungus, and I think one of the more common areas of the body that it causes the biggest problem is if an individual inhales it and gets it and it becomes infected in the lungs. And we used to see, I mean, I've seen it several times, and it was situations where people had, for instance, who have window unit air conditioners. And they, I turned the air conditioner off during the winter. Obviously, they didn't take them down. They didn't clean them when they restarted them, and they began to use them. And probably, so the aspergillus then infested the air conditioner, and as it blew into the fungus into the environment, that individual inhaled it, and they got infected, and it can be a difficult problem to heal sometime. It's not one of those things you can take 2 or 3 pills and you're done with it. It usually requires a long course of treatment with specific antifungal medications.
Okay.
And I'll just add real quick that we should use caution in our homes. If you have things in your home that don't look normal, you see your drywall and you see it's black, you can't just bleach that away. I mean, if it's drywall, you probably need to replace the drywall. So I think part of what we're trying to message, if it's not normal, it's not normal. So you want to address those issues, because if you have mold building up, which is where this condition comes from, it's going to be a problem. If you keep your outside of your house safe. I mean, if you have leaves that are just sitting with moisture for a long period of time, mold can form on those leaves. So let's clear those leaves out. Don't just let them sit there, because they can lead to problems. One of the reasons why we focus on nutrition is because these fungal things, particularly people, with certain conditions, Dr. Maya would completely agree, people with weakened immune systems, particularly if they're not taking their medicine, they may be more prone to these things. So the goal is to don't ignore, if you get a cough or something and you're like, it won't go away, they've been treating it and it's not going away. That's when you want to play detective with your doctor or your advanced practice clinician and try to identify things that may help you. And the tricky part is that there may be things that you identify before your doctor. You're living in your house, you're living in your environment. So if you start to, you have to go back and start to think about what's the root cause. And if we go back to what Dr. Graham was saying about rheumatoid, why the heck are we getting rheumatoid arthritis? Well, there's studies that now show that it may be because you have a leaky gut, because your diet is not good. The microbiome or the bacteria in your gut is not good. So now you got leaky gut, meaning that you're absorbing things into your body you shouldn't. Your body recognizes it as foreign and makes antibodies to that. Oh, by the way, it may end up making antibodies to your joints. And now you got a condition that's related to something you hadn't even thought about. So the medicine, the science is advancing. But one thing we know for sure is that being healthy is the foundation, and then you can kind of go from there.
The other only thing I want to add about, well, not even add, because I think um, Doctors Hampton and Graham touched on it, is, oh, Doctors Miller and Hampton touched on, aspergillus will start as a cough. It starts as a cough. You saw some mold, like Dr. Hampton said, you got a cough, um, and you just keep going. But what it does is it gets in your lungs first, like Dr. Miller said, and it can start to, as it reproduces, it starts to form these balls, which we'll get into, like, I think later. But the purpose of your lungs is to exchange oxygen. Now, if you got balls sitting in there, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Now, once the balls start to form enough fungus and have consumed what it's going to consume in your lung, it'll start moving to your kidneys, your brain, things like that. So that's why it's important to, like Dr. Hampton said, if you see those signs in your home, if you have like a chronic cough, play a little detective. Make sure it's not just allergies or just something like that.
All right, fantastic, fantastic. What is COPD?
I'll kick that one off. Oh, go ahead, Dr.
Well, kick it
Graham.
off, Maya. Go right ahead. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead.
COPD.
Chronic. Sorry. It stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and if you break it down, it tells you chronic. You've been having it for a while. Obstructive. I'll get back to pulmonary in your lungs, right? So go back to, so we're talking about lungs, just like we talked about aspergillus. Obstructive to the lungs. The lungs function, one of the functions is to exchange oxygen and put it in your blood, right? So when it can't do that, and it's and then you start to feel like a decreased ability to exchange air. What that feels like to a lot of people is shortness of breath, or if you've ever had something like that and you just can't get the air out or can't get the air in, you can't exchange, right? I had a patient that one time told me, Dr. Green, it ain't good if you can't breathe. I said, you're right. It's not good if you can't breathe. And that's the bottom line of it. And a disease, meaning there's a process going on in your body that is stopping your body from living its best life. So chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And I'll stop there. I think, Dr. Graham, were you going to break that down, the two types and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was thinking about, but Dr. Maya, you're on a roll, so I'd keep going.
There's, for example, there are two things: blue bloaters or pink puffers. People that can't get it out, and essentially people that can't, like, your stuff is, you can't get the oxygen all the way out, so you're walking around like this. I don't know if people have seen those people, and then people that puff. So essentially, your lungs. So if this is my lung, wait, how's the inside or the outside? And okay, this is a place where the oxygen goes, and you can have damage either to the sacs that exchange the oxygen. So the oxygen comes in, I'm breathing, it gets down here, it has all these tubes, right? And the tubes actually branch off like a tree, right? And then you can have damage here, where you can't move things here, or you can have damage at the end of the tree, just like Dr. Hampton mentioned, leaves at the end. You have these sacs, and across the sacs, that's where most of the oxygen move. Now, if I have disease and the sac is broken, it's correct. Or if I have a disease where a lot of smokers have this, where there's stuff, like if you've ever, of course, I've never smoked a cigarette ever, but if you have, or a lot of times people don't realize, I'm seeing a lot of my people, if you're allergic to dairy products, I've seen that, and you have mucus and stuff forming, and you're blocking those alveoli or bronchioles, or you're tearing the alveoli are actually, from COPD, destroyed. Then essentially like the rest of it. Your lungs aren't functioning. That has an impact, just like aspergillus can get to your lung and then go to your brain, your kidneys, stuff like that. Lack of oxygen or damage to the lung eventually affects your whole body in different ways, right? And so that's what chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is in short. I hear myself going on around, so I'll close it out. There is no current cure that I'm aware of, because remember, a lot of it is damage to the lung or damage to the tubes that lead to the lung. So there's no current way to put that back. If you are experiencing those symptoms, they're not just like aspergillus, but just like the case of aspergillus, if you or anything, if you're experiencing those symptoms, get in as soon as possible, because while there are not medicines to just make it go away, there are medicines that can slow down that process, for your lungs, but also for your body, slow down the process of lack of oxygen, because lack of oxygen over time causes all these other conditions, problems thinking, brain fogginess, things like that. Whereas when we think of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, people always think about the way you breathe, but there are long-term consequences to COPD that a lot of people don't want. I don't know if I said everything. Did I miss anything?
Only, yeah, you got most of it. The only thing I just want to remind folks that is that COPD can be a complication of long-term cigarette smoking or smoking, and so that's an important thing. We talk about cigarettes has a lot of different kind of injurious issues that it causes, lung cancer. It says right there on the pack, but also, COPD can also be a complication from long-term cigarette smoking. So that's another reason to not smoke.
So Walt Whitman says, I heard it. Erica Davis says, #facts. It is not good if you can't breathe. Breathing is essential. Absolutely right, Erica. The person who asked the question about the COPD kind of texted and actually extended their question and says, what is the difference? What is the difference between emphysema and COPD, and can you be diagnosed with both? Dr. Miller?
Okay, yeah. So emphysema can and COPD can be synonymous, and so it depends on what the underlying cause is. But in terms of the behavior, they often behave the same. That people with emphysema have a problem with being able to take in enough oxygen, and emphysema and COPD the same. So from that standpoint, they behave the same. They're the pink puffers.
All right. So our next question says, with a drum roll that is, with these new variants of coronavirus, do we even have a chance with the vaccine?
Yes.
Go ahead, Tony, with those new glasses. I see you. Go right ahead.
I'm trying to be cute with my glasses, but I'm joining my colleagues. Most of my colleagues are wearing glasses. Honestly, there probably is no better way to deal with this pandemic than the vaccine. So even if we were to, throw our hands in the air and say, well, man, what's the one thing we can do? We would always end up back with the vaccines. And even with the concern around variants, the vaccines still give us the biggest opportunity to impact the infection. And I want to really emphasize, you're going to have variants. I mean, the moment you have an infection, its job is to survive, and it's just impossible for that virus to survive if it doesn't change. Just like with your lifestyle, you're not going to survive if you don't change. So people who are adaptable, they do better. People who don't adapt, like if you think about what Dr. Maya said about that patient who got it, she became adaptable and she made a change. And the same is true of viruses. And they replicate, and every time they replicate, it's a messy process. It's not a clean process. And when they do all of these changes, the changes then could lead to a change in how they function. The good news is, no matter how many thousands and thousands of replications they do, it's rare that a change is going to lead to something that causes more harm to us. But every once in a while, and that's why you don't hear about all the different mutations that occur, every once in a while, a mutation will change just right to make the virus more, more likely to spread or more likely to harm us. So if we don't slow things down with vaccinations, we set ourselves up for more and more variants that could potentially occur. And there's nothing else other than a vaccine, which is, again, specifically designed for this specific organism in terms of the ones we are aware of. So there's no other way. We can all hide in the house and do all of that for eternity. But the reality is, if we have a tool that'll help us really do much better. So yes, I think that things are hopeful. This is a challenging virus because it's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, but we're very smart. And if you go back to tetanus to today, we always figure it out. Your job is to be smart and to do the smart stuff while we're waiting to figure it out. And so we don't want to believe in all the things that are not scientifically proven. Let's do the things that are proven so that we'll give ourselves a chance to still be here a year from now, 2 years from now. But the vaccine is clearly going to get us out of this eventually.
I would just add to what Dr. Hampton has said, and that is we have to understand we've been given there's been a lot of politics involved in the messaging around the virus, the messaging around the process, the messaging around a lot of things. But let me just say this. The decision to get, and I've said this before, and I'm probably going to say it on every show that I do, but the decision to take the vaccine, contrary to what you believe, is not your personal decision. Now, you have to have it stuck into your body. That's true. But this is not, when we look at things, and I do from a public health point of view, this tool is not an individual tool, because the only way it really works for the greater good for everybody is that you have to, the virus doesn't, to Dr. Hampton's point, the virus will reproduce itself. It will make millions of copies of itself, but it can't do it by itself. It has to have the machinery that's in our bodies that make our cells. It hijacks those cells and turns our cells into copy machines for itself, and making millions and millions of copies. And then we get a lot of them. We then either breathe them out, we sneeze them out, we cough them out, they go into the air, and they invade other people. And the only way that we stop that is we have to not become breeding grounds, as Dr. Hampton just said, for the virus. And the only way we do that is we take the vaccine, because the vaccine stops the breeding process of the virus. And what I mean, and when we say that, what we're doing is, when you make a decision not to take the vaccine, you're not only just, this is not just an individual thing. When you make that decision not to take the vaccine, you are then making your body a breeding ground for these viruses that are going to influence not maybe just one or two, but you saw the numbers, how they grow so fast. They grow so fast because until we act like we all got good sense and all get the vaccine, we will lose this war. And the only reason we're doing as well as we're doing is because we have as many people that have done it already to get the vaccine. But you got to remember, you got to get the vaccine for not just you, but for all the people that are around you, for your families, for your communities. That's what this is. That's the public health perspective. This is not an individual decision.
Could you drill a hole in some people's head and pour that in?
And just pour it in there. The other thing I want to say, because if you look in the news today, we're seeing a lot of communication that the vaccine is not effective against Omicron. Well, the new variant that's out. Okay. Um, I always, I always, there are people in my family that always tell me, follow the end of the story. Like, if you're going to communicate that, communicate all of it, you
Yeah.
know? So, what those articles actually say when we read them is while it may not stop as many people as we like from getting COVID, it definitely stops people from having severe outcomes. Now, people, because we don't talk about a lot of times, thank you for making this space, Congressman Davis, for talking about what vaccines are. Nobody said the vaccine was going to stop you from getting it. We said the vaccine was going to stop you from dying or ending up in the hospital with a severe outcome.
Yeah.
That's what the chickenpox vaccine does. That's what the flu vaccine does. That's what vaccines do. So this magical reinvention of a narrative of what a vaccine is supposed to do for a benefit of people who want to push a certain agenda is very astounding to me. It's also astounding to me why so many people listen to people that want that narrative and don't look for themselves. Because in the COVID right now, this is not a time to just take information from your friend, who never spent the day scientifically studying vaccine making or never spent the day as a healthcare provider. This is not the time, right? Because the outcome and the risk is just too high. You know, just like when I was a kid and I used to watch BET every Valentine's Day, this little, when CDs weren't, were becoming popular, and they were like, no, my brother, you got to get your own. Just like that, when it comes to information, no, my brother, my sister, you have to get your own. Do your research. Don't just go off of what somebody said, somebody posted. If they talk about a research article, look it up. You're intelligent. You can read the whole thing.
That is simply fantastic. This really kind of leads into our next question. So I'm going to skip down a few questions to, and she's kind of been texting me along the way as well because she wanted to make sure that we got her question in. And it's actually about something Dr. Mason said some shows back. She said, Dr. Mason shared on one show that this is similar to polio. Can he explain that again? So I kind of reached out and said, I asked her, what did she mean by that? And what she stated was, before you explain the importance of getting the vaccine, and it was similar to when people had to get the polio vaccine and why it was so important. She's having some troubles with her husband and her son getting vaccinated. She says, I'm the only vaccinated person in the house. Well, maybe it's the women, myself and my daughter. The men are refusing to go. And apparently her husband is listening. So, Dr. Mason, if you can kind of explain that one more time, maybe that can help them either join someone tomorrow or meet us on the 20th at Express 10.
Well, when I remember the comment we were talking about polio, see, a lot of folks haven't been here long enough. They ain't lived long enough. My mama used to always tell me, boy, I say, I ain't seen it. My mama say, boy, just keep living.
Yeah.
Okay. And the point I was trying to make with polio is that when I was younger, I'm 70 years old now. So when I was younger, I actually saw polio. Okay. I saw what polio did. I saw these young kids being put in these iron lungs, that we called them during that time. They looked like the big 55-gallon garbage cans that they used because they didn't have the kind of techniques for the ventilators that they have today. And so the ventilators, the things that they put the tube in and make you breathe, help you breathe, these kids couldn't breathe and they couldn't walk. You didn't see these kids, their legs were deformed because they couldn't walk. The muscles were attacked. You didn't see all that stuff. What I was saying is that I remember that as a child. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing, and I'm going to call the name of the hospital, a little company in St. Mary's, where they had just these rooms full of these ventilators for kids who could not breathe because they were paralyzed from the polio vaccine and they couldn't walk. They had braces on their legs. And I remember seeing all that. And when the vaccine came out for us to take it, everybody was in line getting that vaccine because, and that was given by the public health clinics and things of that nature. So, when I say people that live, just keep living. Those of you who just started living out during COVID, you're going to tell stories to over 800,000 people are dead from coronavirus. 800,000. And that's a lot of people. And it ain't stopped yet.
Yes, right.
And for those of us who, again, don't make our bodies resistant or be able to fight the virus and keep them from multiplying, you are now part of the problem.
First of all, Dr. Mason, you're 70?
Yes.
Okay. Forks over knives. Let's get it. Nikki, next week is forks over knives. We got Yeah.
Well, you know what? Speaking of that, I think that's good that you came up with that, because we got a number of questions that ask, could we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's? So I think next week we're going to talk about forks over knives. And if that's okay with the congressman, and then the week after we can probably talk about, well, I don't know. We got to see what our Christmas schedule is going to be. But know, people, that you will not miss anything, because we'll just rerun an older show. Matter of fact, if we do end up doing a rerun of an older show, depending on what the congressman wants us to do with our Christmas schedule, make sure that you send us here or call our office and let us know what show you want us to rerun for you to see. That would be great for us to do. Of course, we have a number of them, so make sure you do that. It is that time. We have reached this time point, and I have 15 questions that say the same thing. So I'm going to ask this 15 question. Do you all believe we are going to shut down again? Everybody answer. The congressman is laughing.
So,
Tony is shaking his head. Dr. Miller is laughing. Maya put her head down. Dr. Mason looks like he has nothing to say. And Douglas,
well, let me tell you something I'm going to do. Regardless of whether we shut down, just in case, I'm about to start doing some gardening, because it's going to be some forks over knives situations in my house. So instead of preparing it, if we are and people begin to prepare, I'm not getting ramen noodles and bread and all the other stuff. I'm going to give me some seeds and some soil. And by the time my 44-year-old self, if we do shut down, when we open back up, I'm gonna be looking like Dr. Mason. Bet.
well, since I know Dr. Mason has 16 pounds of collard greens over at his house, I'm just going over there to eat. That's all I'm doing. Dr. Graham, you were about to say something?
See, I would be surprised if we shut down this time. And I think it's not just a question of I think medically, some people might want to, but I think politically it's going to be very, very difficult, especially with upcoming elections, to force a shutdown. And I think that we're going to be in for some very tough times medically as a result.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, as we always do, Dr. Mason, you're until next Monday.
Until next Monday, if you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated by next Monday. That's what you need to do. And I don't want you to be a virus breeder. I want you to be a virus stopper. So be a virus stopper. Get your vaccine.
All right. Dr. James Miller, you're until next Monday.
Oh, I'm going to second the motion that Dr. Mason made, that you get your vaccination. And, one of the point that Dr. Mason made in terms of this is not just about getting the vaccine. It's not just about you. We are all in this ship together. And if one person starts shooting holes in the ship, we all go down.
Yeah. That's right.
And that's the bottom line. We don't want to, in order for us to continue to stay afloat, we need everybody to not have to be afraid and to be fighting alone. We're fighting this together. And if we're going to fight it together, we have to fight it in unison. Because if we're disharmonized, then it doesn't sound good, it doesn't look good, and it doesn't feel good. So get your vaccine.
All right. Dr. Douglas Graham, you're until next Monday.
So I'm going to echo what Dr. Mason, Dr. Miller said, but I'm going to say get your booster too. It turns out that those people who have the best results are the ones who had the booster. Just getting the vaccine and the 2 doses will give you some protection. The best protection is being boosted, more so than just actually having had COVID virus.
All right, all right. Dr. Tony Hampton, our chef extraordinaire and weight loss guru. You're until next Monday.
Yeah, I've been.
'Cause I know you are really getting prepared for the fork
Yeah, you know that. I gotta
over
feed.
nine.
You're funny. So, I think about what's behind me. I have a diploma from my oldest son as he graduated from Washington University of St. Louis, and I think about having a why. Why do we do what we do? And we kind of echo the importance of thinking about our community as a whole. But think about the people in your own house. Think about your own little nest, and man, it would be nice to see more graduations. I have two graduations coming up next year for college for the youngest, graduate school for the guy who graduated already. And I haven't seen any grandbabies yet. I definitely ain't seen no great grandbabies yet. And I really want to be here for that. I want to be here to share messages of healing. And you got to figure out what your why is. Why do you want to be healthy? Why do you want to heal? Why do you want to actually be present, be able to actually run down the backyard with your grandbaby and not just have to sit in a wheelchair because you didn't take care of yourself. So let's rethink our why. And again, as I sat here today, I just looked back there and saw that diploma, and I want to see more graduations, not just for my sons, but for my grandchildren and hopefully my great grandchildren, because I hope to look like Dr. Mason as I season like nice wine and get older. So I want everybody to hear that and to really focus on your why. And once you know what your why is, I want you to run to it and say, I'm going to do this for my family. And whatever it is, that's my final thought.
All right, Dr. Maya Green, the one who is Dr. 100, who is always keeping it real. KIR, come on. You're until
Hey,
next
keeping it
Monday.
real. Keeping it real. We talked about a lot of stuff today. Mainly, if you don't remember anything, be as beautiful on the inside as you are on the outside. That means get your vaccine, get your boosters. And I'm really rethinking, thinking about this. You said a lot of stuff, Dr. Hampton, Dr. Mason. Y'all didn't said a lot of stuff, but it's that 70 that got you. It's the 70 for me, and that's part of my plan to be as beautiful on the inside as I am, or I try to be on the outside. So get your vaccine. Let's get all of us on the other side. If we do shut down, let's work on our forks over knives bodies. You know what I'm saying? And get a plan. Thank you.
You
Maya,
got
I got to
Dr.
say
Hampton.
that forks over knives, eating the way I've eaten, I've gone from 237 pounds now down to 155.
No.
So
Yes, and
he's
that was
bragging
that was
about that small
no, 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 no.
t-shirt
I'm
that
not.
you
I'm
wear.
just not. Yeah, I did wear. I can put a small T-shirt on now. Small.
A
Go
Mm,
small.
from a double X to a small.
mm.
So but it's all food. I'm just showing you that it does work. I know I'm an N of one, Tony, but it does work. Changing, and we'll talk about that next time because I know we're out of time.
All right. Want to remind you guys to do these three things: to wash your hands. And as Dr. Maya always reminds us, when you wash those hands, don't forget to get in here in that thumb area. Make sure you get there. Remember to social distance through everything we've had the opportunity to do. Social distancing never changed, people. So pay attention. And always remember to wear your face covering. Those face coverings should go over your nose and mouth membrane to wear them safely over your nose and your mouth over there. The droplets are what are bad. And as we always do, we will have our closing remarks from the Vanguard on Healthcare, who makes this possible for us on Monday nights. And he constantly teaches us that health is wealth. And that's our very own Congressman Danny K. Davis.
Well, thank everybody so very much. And I want to answer Miss Williams' question. We're going to do something this year a little different. I certainly want to thank Dr. Walt Whitman as I answer the question for Miss Williams because her daughter was in the Soul Children when she was a girl. And she now, of course, is an outstanding public educator, school teacher. And so Walt's been doing this good stuff for a long time. And we want to thank you and the Soul Children because you've meant so much to so many, not only in Chicago, but all over the country and in many places throughout the world. So this year, we are going to Danville Correctional Center on Saturday, and we're going to take 40 children to see their fathers for Christmas. We're going to take 40 children to the penitentiary to see their fathers. And we want to thank the Illinois Department of Corrections and people who work in correctional education and do all kinds of things to try and keep families reunited and united. So we're going to get up at 5 o'clock Saturday morning because we're going to leave at 6 on the bus. And so we're going to have ourselves a good time. We got all the children's names and all that kind of stuff. We are also going to spend time with Oak Street Health at a senior celebration. And we're going to do that Monday. And of course, we're going to be at the tennis place Monday with we our theme is kind of save the children. So we're putting a lot of focus on children. I visited the Robertson Center this afternoon, and you learn so much. And I really didn't know as much as I knew about it, that it was named for one of the 4 girls who were killed in the church in Alabama. And she was one of the 4. And the people named the center after her. And her mother and sister have been involved at different periods with them. And they are the largest early childhood education program in the city of Chicago. They serve over 2,000 children from 6 months to the early childhood education age. And so I just had a wonderful, wonderful time with them. We are also going to celebrate with individuals who are in recovery. We're going to have a celebration and a party. And of course, we've already agreed that nothing will be there stronger than Kool-Aid. I mean, the spirits will not be alcohol and stuff like that because some are recovering from alcohol use as well as from other kinds of substances. And so we're going to celebrate with them. And we're going to have our own Christmas tree lighting with 100 families and toys for the kids and food baskets and those kind of things for 100 low income families and their children. And we are going to provide, through the good graces of Larry Huggins and Christmas in the Wards, 10 $200 shopping gift certificates. And I am also going to be Santa's helper. And I'm calling Dr. Willie Wilson. He is going to give $200,000 to homeless people. And we're going to visit many of them under the viaducts and in tent cities and pass out this money to them. And he's going to do $200,000 to homeless individuals. And he's going to let me go with him. And he's going to do 75 churches or pastors. And he's going to give each one of them $1,000. And he's going to let me go with him when he go to do it. And I'm going to pray for all of them. And we're going to have a good time. So those are going to be our Christmas. He has pledged that he's going to give away $500,000 to different entities during the Christmas holidays. And I have agreed to accompany him to at least about 300,000 of it. And so I'm going to be Santa's helper. I'm I'm going to be Dr. Willie Wilson's helper. And so I'm looking forward to the holiday season. And it's just a way of sharing and caring. And anybody who thinks this is a hoax or just some kind of BS, I can assure you that it is as real as the sun shining. What the eyes see, the heart must believe. And I have seen it. And he called me today and said he got the money. And let's get the schedule together so we could make the visits. So I feel just privileged, quite honestly, to be alive and know the people that I know and come in contact with the people that I come into contact with. And I want to thank another friend, Dr. VJ, who just simply insists that my staff should have a Christmas dinner. So he's preparing for my staff a Christmas dinner. And there will be a lot of vegetables there. And I want you to know, Dr. Mason, they had 2 roasted pigs at this thing I was at last night. And we took photographs of them, and they looked good, and it was interesting. But I had other stuff. I said, in honor of Dr. Terry Mason, I am not eating any of that stuff. I'm going to look at these pigs, and that's going to be it. So, Nicole, thank you all. Thank everybody. And we just got a lot of good stuff going on. We got a lot of good stuff to do. And I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and catch that 7 o'clock flight to Washington, D.C., so that we can make sure that we get these limits raised so that we can keep borrowing money, so the government can keep functioning, and hopefully the Senate will pass Build Back Better at some point before Christmas, because it's some of the best stuff that could ever happen to the United States of America. And thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. And we still look to see you Monday. Have a good night. And thank you so much. Thank you.